enlighten us if you just joined us. And we are talking to Lieutenant Barnes and Lieutenant Gooden in reference to the Navy's minority recruitment efforts. And Lieutenant Gooden, before we had our final break, we were talking about some of the activities that naval men became involved in. And I'd like to continue that discussion by finding out something about your personal background in the U.S. Navy.
Yes, sir. Well, initially, my personal background in the Navy initiated with the application, as I said, prior to the officer candidate school and what have you. I'd rather try to just expand on this a little bit on what I did in what we call the fleet. I flew Navy helicopters off destroyers and frigates. Our basic mission was anti-submarine warfare. I found nothing, I guess, and Tony can vouch for this, it's no thrill as exciting as actually doing the flying and operating in that type of theater out there in the
and so you operate off a carrier and with
yes,
in helicopter.
Yes, sir. I have flown off of frigates, destroyers, and carriers. All ships that I have.
How many black people do you find involved in that specific aspect of this career profession, Mr. Gooden?
Well, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, sir. It's very few. This is a unique opportunity here, just to have us two, Tony and myself, in the area. Commander Williams, who was on earlier, he is also an aviator. The exact demographics, I'll let Tony describe the exact demographics on those figures, but this is a unique situation just to have us two here.
Very good. Barnes?
Unfortunately, black aviators make up less than 1.4% of all naval aviators. To get down to raw numbers, you're probably talking about, pilot-wise, less than 169 pilots that are black out of 12,000 pilots in the entire Navy.
So to have 3 pilots on this particular program means that we've got quite a percentage in terms of the representation of black pilots in the U.S. Navy. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And that also is what makes our presence throughout the recruitment process so much important. Now we can have that positive role model for a younger individual to aspire to be when they complete their college education. And by us coming out and being able to put the word out about the importance of being able to do that is what we hope to accomplish.
Well, now, how would you compare the Navy with the traditional flying arm of the service, the Air Force, in terms of black representation in the area of aviation?
It'd be unfair for me to comment on that. I really don't know what their percentages work out to be, but I believe that we actually have more aviators than they do.
So there's a crying need for blacks to become, and other minorities, women, to become involved in flight training, period, throughout all of the various branches,
Absolutely.
but especially in the Navy.
We have 2 black female pilots in the Navy. I've had the opportunity to meet one of the 2, and she actually has the non-traditional aviator's background. Never aspired for aviation prior to completing her college education. In a forum like this, where she was introduced to the opportunity to become an aviator and taking advantage of that opportunity, she has aspired to something that, in her own words, is the greatest accomplishment of her life at this point.
And not only that, I think another thing that can be emphasized is what are the possibilities for using the training that you've gained as aviators once you decide to, if you decide to leave service. I mean, Gooden, first, why don't you give us some information relative to how you perceive of your occupations later on in life?
Yes, sir. You can proceed out of the Navy, from the Navy career, into any field you aspire to do. You can go into anything, education, management, business. A lot of flyers go into the civilian flying world as flying for commercial pilots and so forth. But just to piggyback a little bit what Tony Barnes had said here earlier, it's amazing that the representation is that low of blacks flying in Navy aircraft. If one sat down to think about how much a Navy aircraft costs, the aircraft I flew personally was well over $15 million. I would think that would be aspiration enough for any individual, any young man who would want to drive a $15 million piece of equipment around. That itself motivated me and excites me.
What about the technical? Some people might believe that they might not have the technical skills that are necessary. I mean, exactly what are the technical skills that are necessary to become involved in aviation?
Well, I'll go back to commend Bell, one of the 2 black female pilots, a liberal arts major from a small liberal arts college in Pennsylvania. No technical training whatsoever. That's what we pride ourselves on, is the ability to train you to do the job that you aspire to do. The training will be there. We're not limited by major as to be an aviator. All majors qualify. You basically need to be demonstrate to the Navy that you have you're trainable. Approximately a 2.5 grade point average in whatever major, and you take our aptitude test and score well enough on it to meet the basic minimum requirements to be an aviator and have a heart and drive and desire, and I think you can aspire to be a naval aviator.
Finally, what are some of the opportunities for advancement in rank in the U.S. Navy? I think both of you, and of course I think we can take a comment from the 2 of you in reference to this, but I think until quite recently there were some there was some fear of a lack of opportunities for advancement in rank in the U.S. Navy, even among officers. How do you find that opportunity today?
At one time, I spoke earlier with the commander about the excuse me, about the history of blacks in officer programs in the Navy. Right now we have 4 black admirals. We have more black captains than we've ever had before. The opportunity is there. The bottom line is performance is what counts.
Exactly.
Very good. Any final comments?
Well, no, sir. The last thing I would like to leave you with is the fact that for any individual watching the show tonight, if they want further information about the Navy, please contact me at the local recruiting office here in Nashville, Tennessee. My local number is 256-4372, and we can talk about any officer programs that you may want to.
Very good. And so you sort of represent the local effort, and if they would like to become involved in the Navy in any category, whether they are thinking in terms of coming directly out of high school and perhaps going to one of the area colleges and becoming involved in the the Naval ROTC program, et cetera, all of that can be done through your office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, and I could direct them to the individual that they would need to talk to.
Very good. And let me thank the 2 of you, as well as Commander Williams, for coming by and giving us that information in reference to what the Navy is doing in an attempt to try to increase the number of minorities and women involved in the service today. And let me encourage you again to tune in next week for another informative edition of Comments.